ethics, no? Usually the approach is to define it in a classical way using high-polluting words. Sometimes you define it in terms of morality, sometimes you define ethics in terms of values, etc. But in my long years of studies about ethics, okay, I I've been looking for a definition that is very operational, no? A definition that will remind you in your daily activities or daily lives that what you are doing could be ethical or not. That kind of definition that I'm looking for. Now, let's take a look at the dominant definition of ethical concepts. Like, for instance, this utilitarian ethics. No? Utilitarian ethics is nothing but, in the word of Machiavelli, no? It's the end justifies the means. In other words, whatever you do along the way towards a certain end, if the end is good, meaning it serves the great majority, whatever you do is justified. In other words, although you, for instance, just like in the drug campaign of President Duterte, no? It is said that the campaign had already wasted several lives, no? That goes into 30,000, things like that, no? In utilitarian ethics, those lives are only incidental to the end because the end is eventually is intending to make the Philippines peaceful. The logic is if you eliminate those drug lords, okay, drug pushers, and some unrepentant drug users, eventually the end will be to cleanse the Philippines of all those drug problems. The end justifies the means. That's utilitarian ethics. On the other hand, the Kantian ethics goes like this, no? It says that the end do not justify the means. It's the process, whether it's right or it's based on the virtue, that justifies the end. In other words, regardless of the end, as long as the process is good, then you are ethical. In other words, as long as the process are, it's within the rules, the laws, and it's within the, say, for instance, 10 commandments, something like that, no? Universal rules, whatever is the end, the whole thing is justified. In other words, in Kantian ethics, it's the process that is being monitored. So basically, the utilitarian ethics and the Kantian ethics are contradicting each other. That's a dilemma because you can justify a very bad or unethical act through one of them. You see the dilemma? In other words, because of these two opposing ethical standards now, everything can be justified. And that is bad. That is bad because with this kind of opposing ethics, there's no right and wrong, it seems. Huh? Now, I better, this, the third one, the care-based thinking that we have here, to me, it's better because the rule is clear. As long as you are doing good for others, something that you want others to do it to you, then everything is ethical. That is a care-based thinking, no? Golden rule of conduct. Now, because of this confusion, I am offering a definition that will help everyone, that will help the humanity in determining whether your activity, whether what you do is ethical or not. And this rule can be applied in simple personal life or in a big business or in politics. And this is the rule. What you are doing is ethical if you don't live at the expense of other people. What you are doing is ethical if the process and the ends is tantamount to not doing it at the expense of other people. Or said in the negative way, you are not ethical or unethical if your action, okay, or your activity, okay, depend on living at the expense of other people. In other words, you are living at the expense of other people. Then you are not ethical. Now, how do we operationalize? How do we operationalize this? This definition, as I've said, will help you determine whether what you will do or what you're doing is ethical or not. Oh, let me operationalize it because I am presenting this as an operationalized definition of what is ethical or not to prevent the confusion between utilitarian ethics and Kantian philosophy, right? So, example, you're a businessman. You have a nice factory. You're making oodles and oodles of money by millions. But along the way, while you're making money, you are polluting the river and the air. And therefore, fish are dying. And therefore, the fishermen have lesser food on the table. And therefore, the community around your factory are slowly suffering. You're making money at the expense of the fishermen, of the people around your factory. Therefore, you are unethical. See? You can now determine whether your action or your activity is ethical or not by just sticking on the definition that you are ethical if you don't live at the expense of other people. It's a new thing. I tell you, it's different from utilitarian ethics, it's different from Kantian ethics, it's different from the golden rule ethics. See? Now, I'll give you another example. Say, you are the president of the country and you want to make a legacy for your presidency. Like, for instance, let's have an example of President Duterte. He wants to make a legacy, no? And therefore, you are saying that for me to have a legacy, I want to make the Philippines peaceful by, eliminating drug offenders to the tune of 30,000, as I've said. So, he wants to make a legacy for himself at the expense of 30,000 dead people. That is very unethical. See? That is very unethical. It will follow the same definition that we have, that do not live at the expense of other people. See? It's applied in politics, right? The previous example, it's applied in business. Now it's applied in politics. Now, how do you apply it in the personal life? For instance, you are invited by your boyfriend or girlfriend, no, to a dinner with his family. And there you are, you're eating in a table in front of her parents, and then you ate too much, no? And then you burp so loud, and then you finish so fast, and then you get a toothpick, you do a toothpick in front of your parents, no, to your mouth, and then look at this, no? It seems that you're enjoying your dinner at the expense of other people who are still eating. What are you now? You lack table etiquette. See? You are living at the expense of people who are still eating. You're enjoying yourself at the expense of people who are eating. See? We can apply it in personal life, that definition. Oh, I'll give you another example. Using the same definition. Ethics, to be ethical, you should not live at the expense of other people. You have a boyfriend, and then every night you are asking him for a load of 10 pesos. I said, you want, when you call somebody for emergency, every night you're asking for 10 pesos. What's happening? You're actually milking your boyfriend 10 pesos every night. You are living at the expense of your boyfriend. See? You are living a very unethical life. That's why that definition you should remember, because it will be a guide for you. It will be a guide for you on how to remain to be ethical in the future, whether in personal life, in business, in politics, on whatever you do. Just remember that to be ethical, you should not live at the expense of other people. Okay, now, here's a dilemma that I'd like to tell you. Some sort of dilemma using that definition. You know for a fact that you're being sent by your parents to school, right? In other words, your parents are spending for your tuition fee, your food, your clothing, right? Your gadget, etc. Your parents is putting all the bills for you. In other words, have you realized that you're living at the expense of your parents? Hey, come on. So you're living at the expense of your parents. In other words, if we base on our definition, you are actually unethical, not ethical, because you're living at the expense of other people, right? Or any objection. What is your point of view about that? I want to hear from you. Let's see. I want to call you in random. Okay, Antoinette Magat, are you here? Antoinette Magat. Hey, answer, Antoinette Magat. Are you here, Antoinette? Antoinette, you're not here. You're not.
Opo.
Okay, Antoinette, are you living in a very unethical life because you have been living at the expense of other people, which is your parents? What do you, what do you think?
Feeling ko po sir hindi po. Kasi po, hindi, ano ba?
Say it in English, please.
Ano daw?
Because this is
Ano po sir?
intended. Say it in English because this is intended for global audience. I want to upload
I
it.
feel like I'm not living unethical because first of all, they are my parents and not to be rude, but I am their responsibility as their child po.
So you're saying that it is their responsibility. There's a
Yes.
feeling of entitlement. You are entitled for this kind of privileges. Is that what you think?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that's your opinion. How about Erica? Bring my eclipse. What do you think? Are you living in a very unethical life right now? Erica,
Hello? Hello?
are you living in a very unethical life because you are living at the expense of your parents? What do you
I
think?
don't think so po. I think I'm living an unethical
Ethical,
life.
ethical life. You're living
I'm living Apo. Sorry.
why is that so?
Because of course it's my parents' responsibility to give me the needs to guide me po. But of course as a child or yeah, as a child I also have the responsibility to reach their expectations.
Okay. So
Yun lang
okay.
po. Yun lang po.
So that's your opinion. Actually, class, I'm waiting for an opinion that is similar to mine. No? My opinion is like this. At this point in time, nobody can tell whether you're living on an ethical life or not because it's still a process. What will determine if you are living on a very ethical life or a very unethical life is maybe 15 years from now. When you are already a good professional in a condominium in Makati and your parents are very old living in the province, they're retired already, they don't have jobs, their money is not enough for their maintenance, and then you are not supporting them. In that situation, I would say that you have been living in a very unethical life. Why? Because it turned out that you have been living at the expense of your parents in the past without repayment. No? So, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, I want to see you. I want to ask you if you are supporting your old parents. If you're not supporting your old parents, then I would say right in your face. Huh? I would say in your face that, hey, buddy, you're not living an ethical life because you have neglected your parents. See, this is a lifetime lesson for all of us. Stick to the definition. Do not live at the expense of other people because if you do that, you are living a very unethical life. And if you are not supporting your parents 20 years from now, then you have showed us that you have neglected them and therefore the process that started from when you were young, you're a baby, and up to that point where they are already old, it showed that you have not repaid them for the love and cares that they provided to you at this point in time. See? That's why, class, I want to brag to you, no, that after my college and UP, I started working. And from the time I worked up to the time that my father and mother died later, I keep on giving them support. When I have a salary increase, the support increases also. Up to the time that they died. And I can face my creator someday that God, I'll tell God that God, I've been a very ethical person as regards to my parents. And I want you to do that also. You should do that. And not only to your parents, but live in a very ethical life. That is, do not live at the expense of other people. As a businessman, as a politician, and as a public servant. Okay, you got it? I hope you learn a lesson from this. And this is a very doable lesson in life because you can actually practice this. Okay? Just remember the definition. Okay. May I hear the definition if you remember it? Francesca Salima, can you repeat my definition that I put forward tonight? Aside from the Utilitarian, Kantian philosophy, and the Golden Rule philosophy, what's that definition that I've offered to you? Francesca. I just want to test if you're listening. To live in an ethical life, you should, Francesca Saliva.
Good evening po, sir.
Yes,
Hello po.
yes. Can you speak in English, please? To live
Sir,
an ethical life, to live ethically, no? You should. Saliva, you're not listening yata.
Sir,
sir, kanina po kasi mahina po kasi yung net.
You did not hear my lesson? Huh? Okay.
Shot po kasi kanina.
Okay, excuse accepted. Maybe it's a problem with the Wi-Fi. Okay, how about I just want to make sure because to me this is a very important lesson. Jericho Tayag, what was the lesson that I've told you? To live an ethical life. Jericho, are you listening? You unmute yourself. To live an ethical life, what is my definition? Do not
feed on others po.
Yes, do not, you said it in your own words. Do not live at the expense of other people. Yeah, maybe that's what your intention. Do not live at the expense of other people. In other words, you should live on your own, at your own expense. Do not disturb other people. Do not use other people. In other words, do not be a user. In simple term, do not be a user. Okay, always remember that. To live in an ethical life, do not be a user. Don't live at the expense of other people. Okay, continue.